Hey, what's up? I'm Warren Martineck, and this is the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me, as always, is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down. But you're never down when Noreen Rad is on the podcast with you. Hello.
Or around, Ian, around.
What? What did I get wrong?
Down, around. You'll never get lonely when Noreen is around.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go along.
Really. I just make it up as I go along. It never seems that way. It seems like it's so well practiced.
It does seem like
really
it's so well practiced.
It does. It really does.
It's clearly not appreciated today.
It is.
I'll just
people are just
stuff and go. I'll take my ball and going home.
It's nice. Look, people are just starting to think you're a little obsessed with me. That's all, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I
like it.
Yeah,
that's so nice.
You remember the you won't remember this. I don't know why I'm saying.
No.
It. You remember the Beatles?
Of course I do.
The Beatles.
We're buddies.
You remember those pictures of them in the 60s where like young women are screaming so much that they are literally passing out?
Yes.
That's how I feel when I start one of these episodes, my friend.
That's so nice. I feel the same way, Ian. The same way.
Dad. You're my hero.
Okay.
Anyway.
I love ego boosted on this podcast. It's the best. This is
quite
great.
That's quite all right. There are people listening to us, so we should probably be slightly less personally intimate and actually do a show for them.
Lies. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is episode Don't Know Yet, and it's a pleasure to be in your ears. I'm really, really happy with this week's guest, and we haven't even introduced him yet, simply because this young man has blown me away, and I know blown you away, Noreen, with
100%.
Just like the quality and the passion and the dedication of his collection. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Don Comstock, otherwise known as Dr. Strange Archive. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing extremely well. It's snowing out a little bit. It looks beautiful out. I'm in my nice, warm, cozy house, talking to some great people. So
good. That's nice. You see, Noreen, it's not just me that blows smoke up your ass.
See, that's it's very hard for me to sit down when I'm around you guys. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I love you guys too, of course.
Oh, it's a love fest. People are going to be getting
It's
buckets.
a love fest. Yeah, they're going to be puking pretty consistently. But, we're speaking to, in my mind, kind of like a legendary collector here, right? We've spoken to many collectors, many collectors. But I don't know if I've ever seen a collection as thorough and as carefully crafted as Donald's. I mean, I remember first meeting you, Donald. I don't even know where it was now. If it was on Instagram or Facebook, I don't even know how that even came about. Do you remember?
No.
How were you at first? I don't remember. I feel like I've been talking to you forever though. But I went on to. Okay, so a couple of things we should do first. Donald, give us your origin story, buddy. How did this all start? How did the sickness start? Have you sought professional help? Let's just go there.
Those are all questions my wife asks on a regular basis. No. I'm a little older. What am I going to be? I'm going to be 51 this year. So when I was a kid, I kind of started off in the great silver age of comic books and things. And originally, I was a big in the 70s. As a young kid, I was into the horror stuff. I was Tales from the Crypt and all the horror stuff. I had stacks and stacks of horror stuff. I didn't get into the superhero stuff till probably my early teens in the early 80s, and it kind of mostly was Marvel. Did a little DC. I think Batman and Green Lantern were my two DC things that I kind of got into, just because I've always been into superheroes that weren't born with a gift or weren't giving something. It always had to be superheroes that had to learn and took years and years, and sometimes, like in Doctor Strange's case, technically hundreds of years to master their craft and be good at what they did. And on the Marvel side, Iron Man was the other one I collected again, because Tony Stark, basically built all his stuff, became a genius. It was all and I like X-Men. I like those comic books and those stories and stuff. But I always liked the superhero that had to, I don't want to say earn, but had to work and dedicate and strive towards their particular skill or their particular goal. And that's probably when I got into Doctor Strange. Was in the early 80s. Some great art, some great comics that came out in and then into the 90s, because the 90s was kind of the boom in the comics industry, and there was tons of titles out. And when you have tons of titles out, you got tons of artists working on those titles, and then all that stuff rolls into cards and statues and action figures and all that type of stuff. And you can't deny that Doctor Strange has got one of the best costumes ever. It's kind of like if Liberace and Superman had a child, kind of a thing. It's just you can't. The colors, just with the reds and the golds and the blues, just kind of grabs you out of nowhere. And then love that. Also, back in the 60s and 70s, magic was a big thing. Mysticism, those meditation, those types of things. So when Ditko did this, he really hit it right at the right spot, and that's really what made it kind of take off or last this long. As everybody loves magic. And then when I was a kid and a teenager, D&D first just got started, and things like that, and we were all into that. So it's kind of like a collision of a bunch of cool things came together that really made me like Doctor Strange and focus on Doctor Strange, and just stills art, whatever, just the costume and the scenery and the dark dimension and spells and other dimensional beings, eternity, and those types of things just make for great art. And when you're looking at a great piece of great art, your mind just starts wandering, and you start dreaming and thinking about things. So I've been collecting him ever since. I really didn't become what I would call a addict or a top level collector until I was into probably my mid-20s or so, mainly because as a young kid you normally don't have that much extra income and money to throw around. And I've been kind of chipping away at them ever since.
So let me get this straight. You've been at this for over 2 decades. Coming up
3. Yeah. I've been not as a focused Doctor Strange collector, but I've been collecting Doctor Strange comic books and stuff since the 80s, and I've been reading them, since the early 80s. So
wow.
And and like I said, the 70s for me, most of it was horror related stuff as opposed to superhero related stuff.
Do you remember? Was there a particular issue that did it that actually kind of tipped it for you?
I don't think so. It's Strange Tales kind of came out before I started, though those were kind of the 60s. Frank Bruner is my favorite Doctor Strange artist of all time, and those were the mid-70s, early 70s through the 70s, and that's really what kind of got me hooked to his cover art and the work he's done, and Frank's a great guy. I've talked to him a couple times. And it kind of is that transition from where comic book art kind of went from the cartoon strip 2D kind of art to more realistic flowing clothes. Yeah. He's the one that really punched it up and kind of got me going. And Steve Englehart did the writing on a few of those, on some of those Marvel Premiere comic books, the Marvel Premiere series, which is a very important key series for Doctor Strange. But yeah, probably his work, the Marvel Premiere work, and the stuff in the mid-70s really is what started getting me hooked on it.
Yeah, I've got those Premiere issues. They're extraordinary.
That's amazing. I always love how, because you kind of do this as a character collector, right? You start realizing you know all the artists who have taken on your character in the mainline series of that character, right? Who've done appearances, who have done one-offs, who have done graphic novels and all that kind of stuff. And you really start charting your character through the different art styles, you know, of these creators and so forth. So I always love talking to you because you're always so knowledgeable and quick to understand kind of like the context of the art, which I always strive to do with the Surfer as well, which I really appreciate. You know, Ian asked you, was there a specific comic book that kind of got you into Strange? But, you know, I'm going to go even further now. Is there a specific collectible that got you really kind of all of a sudden you were like, oh boy, let me start stacking this up? You know, was it a statue? Was it a card? Was it a comic book where you're like, all right, I got to start archiving these things? Because honestly, you're one of the only people I know that takes the archiving part of this so professionally, you know, and I'm a great admirer of that, obviously.
I probably, one of the first things that I actually kind of displayed or really enjoyed a lot, and that was the Bowen full figure Doctor Strange statue. My wife got me that as a gift. I can't remember if we got it at San Diego Comic-Con or where it was back when we lived in San Diego at the time. But that Bowen statue was just so amazing. It couldn't sit in a closet. It couldn't sit somewhere, because most collectors, they collect all this stuff and they spend all this money on this stuff, and it sits in closets and it sits in boxes, and it does such a disservice. I've done panels and lectures at some of the conventions and that on how to display your collection and that. And even if you just got one shelf in your entire house, you can rotate stuff every couple of months in and off that shelf. But that's, I've had a lot of other stuff before that statue, but you know, like other collectors, a lot of the stuff just ended up sitting in closets and drawers and stuff. But that I love that statue so much that that's what kind of started bringing the stuff out. You know, it's kind of like in comic book collecting, getting your comics graded was a big thing, and getting them slabbed was a big thing. But any comics that I have that are slabbed, they're all high grade Silver Age comics that it's more of a preservation thing. I've always got a reader copy because I need to be able to open up that comic book, because not only to read the story, to smell that paper,
yes,
to look at the advertisements, because some of those really rare collectibles,
that's really cool,
they were advertised in the comic books and you've never seen them since. So sometimes you still run across something you didn't realize it existed, because you need to flip through those ad pages and see your squirrel monkey ad and, you know, all those other things that you can get out of the comic books. But the other big thing was that when the 2016 movie came out, that prompted me to pull everything I had out into one of my rooms, and I realized how much, I'll call it stuff, I had. And I figured that, you know, maybe some other people would be interested in it, because a lot of it's vintage, a lot of it's historical. And I also like collecting production process stuff, proofs, prototype packaging, you know, you name it. I love looking at that stuff and looking at the production process. That's when I kind of started the website, because I really was never on social media all that much. So I started up the Instagram and the Twitter and stuff like that.
Love that website, by the way, if anyone doesn't know about it.
I didn't know you had a website.
Yeah,
what? Ian, you haven't been to this?
No, I've just been checking out the stuff that Don's been posting on social media. I didn't know there was a mothership.
Missing out. I'm sending you the link right now. This thing is epic.
Tell people what it is before we go any further.
So it's drstrangearchive.com. That's drstrangearchive.com. My web hoster just recently switched servers, because the servers my stuff was on for maintenance. It was like 5 years old. The servers were old, that they were swapping them out. When they did that, my database links dropped, so I'm working to try and get them up. So the pages are there, but I basically have databases online of all the collectibles, action figures, magazines, movie memorabilia, trading cards, and you can actually see scanned in photos of everything, when they were made, who the artists were on them, brief descriptions. But the databases are currently down. Hopefully sometime in the next couple of weeks I'll get the links put back up. It's just the user accounts and stuff that's in the web code isn't matching up to the new servers they've got, so I've got to get out there and change that. But there's lots of other stuff that's out there.
Oh, you gotta look at. No, it's it's actually took pictures of it. As sorry for being such a stalker, but I actually took a couple of pictures of the screen grabs and stuff like that and the formatting, because this is something I would think about diving into in the future. And I'm just absolutely obsessed with your layout because I love organized things. I don't know what's wrong with me. It just gets me. I'm just like love organized stuff. But I think what's also really great about Donald's website is that there's a lot of really amazing resources. This is something that I use it a lot for, like how to preserve, guides, articles, things on how to conserve yourself, preservation, temperatures, all this great stuff that I constantly bother Donald about for a while there. Well, but something to check out.
Now this is something that I've been interested to talk about, because everyone. Okay, so I collect. No one collects. You clearly collect, Don. Just a tad.
Clearly correct.
I've never, I'm starting to upgrade in some areas of stuff, but most, for example, in my cards, they're in binders. My comics, I use a particular brand and bag of board and box and etc. So I'm fussy to a point, and I think that's probably. Most collectors of varying degrees of that fussiness, but then there's the step on where you are. I guess the phrase would be museum grade, possibly. Would that be fair?
Like that.
In terms of the level of attention and craft that you're bringing to it. So, and I know because I've seen pictures of you. You're very handy. You're very crafty guy. You can build stuff. You've got mad skills. You can make cabinets. You can make drawers. You can 3D print stuff. You can do all sorts of stuff. And I can barely make a cup of tea. So where did that side of it come in? Were you always doing that, or did that archival stuff, was that self-taught? Tell us about that.
Well, it's once I started amassing the collection and it started getting larger, I started figuring out what the goals are going to be, because the collection, frankly, is bigger than me. So I figured if I could do it in such a way where I could preserve the stuff, where it would be available for generations and generations to come, because it doesn't matter if comic books go away. Marvel characters will still be around in movies, other formats. It's the same thing with trading cards. Mediums come and go as technology changes and as people change. But the superheroes and the comic book stuff will be around for a very, very long time. So I figured, once, if I could preserve this stuff to a point where it could be passed on to somebody else, once, we all eventually leave this place. But if we could do it in such a fashion where it's as good a condition as possible. I'm going to the dark dimension, I'm sure. I'm hoping for Shambhala, but I'm going to probably end up.
I'm hoping for Xanadu, circa Olivia Newton-John.
Well, Shambhala is very Xanadu. That's a great reference. So that's when I started kind of really taking the extra step and preserving the stuff. And just because, I've been collecting for over 30 years, hopefully I'll be collecting for, a few more decades to come. And that stuff gets old, especially the vintage stuff. Today's stuff, a lot of it's printed on modern paper and things, but the original trading cards from the 60s and 70s, the comic books, all that stuff, it's created in a medium, the pulped paper, that eats itself. It destroys itself. If you do nothing to it, if you do nothing bad to it, it will eventually eat itself if you don't take care of it. So you have to try to figure out ways where you can slow that deterioration process down to help preserve those things. Some people, they'll see an article where they'll pull out, somebody found a box of comics in somebody's, cellar that's in perfect condition from the 60s and 70s. I'm like, yeah, because a cellar is a very maintained humidity and temperature and everything else. Most places aren't like that. Most of the time, you're in a place where the summer skyrockets to 80, 90, 100 and some odd degrees, and then the wintertime cools down, and all those giant fluctuations in temperature and humidity. Because it's not just the temperature and humidity, it's the fluctuation between the two, because it causes the paper to expand and contract, and that's what makes it brittle, those types of things. So, and I've always been a science guy, so I just started researching it. I hate, we're old enough to have been around before the internet, and before that, if somebody reads something in a trading card group, they think that's science and that's what it is. No, that's usually just somebody's opinion, and it hasn't actually been researched. So a lot of times when I do the guides or when I tell people if they ask about storage recommendations, I'll actually give them the references to the Library of Congress recommendations, to the National Archive recommendations. Here in the U.S., we have organizations, the National Standards Organizations, that actually have standards for document preservation and stuff like that. And they tend to be kind of a wide range of numbers. So what I do is I just average them, and then I come up with what's best for me, because we can only control stuff to a certain amount. So, but I'll be able to explain that to people. I'm a very much of, hey, what do you think this should be? And then my next question is why? Can you point me somewhere that actually proves that to me? I'm one of those guys. Because too many people just read stuff on the internet and just think that it's gospel just because somebody else regurgitated it on the internet. So I'm very much one of those. And then I've always been a guy that if somebody doesn't make a particular product, I'll make it myself. You know, if they don't have drawers that I need, or if they don't have, it's like right now I'm doing prototyping out some slabs, kind of like one touches that are for 3 and 4 panel sketch cards and stuff like that, just because there's not a whole lot. You know, the only stuff that's kind of out there is, you know, a few people have some eBay accounts that they're just basically plexiglass that are screwed together, you know, for some of those bigger art cards. And I'd rather have something that's more cool looking.
Archival, sick.
Yeah. So it's I've always, and that's been my entire life. If there's something I can't find or it's way too expensive, I'll just try and build it myself. So.
Wow.
I love that. That's how I am with design stuff. If I had a workshop, if I had the materials to do it, I'm sure I would be building stuff. And because I'm always drawing up my little display goals and my little, you know what I mean? I just do. It's just, I just do. It's just how I've always been. You know what I mean? It's how I've always been, which is why like I do the design stuff with Ian for the group and all this kind of stuff. It's just, you know what I mean? If I growing up in Miami, it's very much like you don't take your car somewhere to get fixed. You're like, all right, let's see if we can fix it. And then you get the guy across the way who has a crane to lift the engine out. And then you're doing all this stuff in this ridiculous way, you know? So I kind of grown up the same way, but I really appreciate your ability to do that with the research. And I do think more people have to be that way, right? Because, you know, obviously, especially with the era we live in, the way people just say things, the way people just put things out there without research or without any credible sources is quite frequent, and it's detrimental to a lot of society and things that are happening around the world right now. But so I definitely appreciate that, and I think it's a great task, and I think more collectors want to know about this as well. So I'm sure our listeners will be fascinated to hear that, because, I mean, let's be honest, the card boom is real, man. Those prices on cards are getting crazy, the parallels, the hunting, and that's something I want to kind of ask you, Donald. I know you've been getting into the card stuff just as hard as we have, you know what I mean? I know you've been there for a while, but now you're being introduced to the more modern stuff, you know? So how have your card collecting goals kind of evolved with a more modern Marvel way of collecting?
Well, it's when I first started collecting cards, you know, I grew up on government cheese and rice. I was a very non-high income household, but yet as a kid, you were still able to go to the convenience store and put a full set together, you know, as a very, I'm not sure what the right term is, non-well-income family. Nowadays, you can't do anything like that. And it's just the way that, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just that the card collecting industry and the hobby isn't meant for kids anymore. You know, it's just that you can't do that unless you've got very rich parents that are feeding you the money for the cards. There's absolutely no way that it's a kid's thing. And I love seeing on the Facebook groups where the dads and the moms are opening cards with their kids, and they're doing it because they've got the funds to do that. But as a kid, you really can't go out and do it by yourself anymore just because it's too expensive. And one of the things is back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, cards were put out by the hundreds of thousands. You know, those card sets were the print runs on those card sets were just spectacular, were just crazy. And just because there was a demand, you know, it was just the way it was. And that's what's kept, because people ask me, it's like, why are some of the vintage stuff and some of the older cards really not worth anything? And these new cards, which are no different or worth, you can't get a new card for under a few bucks a card, and sometimes not under a couple $100 a card. And it's just because the way they put the industry and the way that we move the industry is it's all limited run. And what the limited run does is it causes either real or perceived value, depending on how you look at it. And that's what causes these insane prices that we're seeing. And it's like in the 90s, it's the same thing that happened within comic books in the 90s. In the 90s, that's when all the speculation started, where they started trying to make money off of comic books. Before the 90s, you collected comic books, you rolled it up, you stuck it in your back pocket, you read it, you put it in your bike bag and you drove off with it. But in the 90s, people tried to make money off it, trying to make it in an industry. That's where they were trying to, a lot of perceived value came from. They'll be like, well, this issue is a prototype for Doctor Strange. No, just because there was another magic user or wizard character in another comic book before 1963 doesn't mean it was a prototype, because before that, the comic book was, I don't want to say worthless, but really wasn't worth anything. But now they can call it a Doctor Strange prototype, and now they can sell it for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So it's one thing that I always kind of look at is the difference between what I determine, and it's all internal. It's what you determine the value is, and what some of the perceived. Just because something is stamped 1 of 50 doesn't mean it's worth hundreds of dollars, or 1 of 25, because you can get a 1 in 25 from a different set with just as good of art and everything else, and you can pick it up for $15 or $20 on eBay. So it's very much a personal thing. It's what you want. But what we're seeing the past since I've started collecting cards again is there's a lot more resellers and a lot more investment. People that are doing nothing but breaking cases just to resell and make money on it, and that always drives up the price. Which again, I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. It's just something you have to take into consideration when you look at the hobby and you look at the industry, and that's why it costs so much. We've got Black Diamond coming up at some point this year.
Black Diamond.
The only price I've seen on that so far is a Canadian pre-order that's not up anymore, which was for $300 for a pack, which is, they call it a box, which people are going to get. People need to make sure that they read their stuff, because hobby boxes, like for the 2016 Doctor Strange stuff, a hobby box, people think that's a box. No, that's actually just a pack. They put it in a cardboard box like the 94 Flair. So you're getting 6 cards for that $300. So, and it's stuff you got to look at. And I'm really, I hate paying that much for cards, but I like some of the, top tier stuff, some of the stuff very cool.
Too.
So
Same.
I could go on and on. I make people mad all the time when we talk about buybacks and all these other reused art things, and it just keeps getting more and more expensive for reprinted same art. But I have to buy a Doctor Strange son. I still have to get it anyway. So I'm the person they market to.
Exactly. Can I just share a beautiful thing? I don't know if you're aware that you even did it, but you did a little clap of your hands in glee there. Just it's wonderful. This is one of the only hobbies where I see grown men do that on a regular basis. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so to answer your question in a lot less shorter, I guess, answer is I think the biggest thing is you just have to monetarily budget out better and plan for that. So if you're looking to do, if you're a person that tries to do complete sets or complete chases or complete parallels, for what these sets cost today, you really need to plan ahead. Some people have a lot of disposable income that doesn't matter. They can sit at the card shop and buy case after case after case. It doesn't matter to them. But most of us, we have to kind of plan for those expenditures, squirrel some money away throughout the year to get ready for it, and those types of things, because you can't let the hobby get to a point where you can't pay your rent, you get divorced, you can't, you alienate your family, and it happens because it's an addiction. It can be an addiction.
It's very gambling at one point. Yeah, it's very much gambling, and and especially with cards. And cards have always had that kind of background to them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and just the point you make about gambling, for me, I think one of the things that's made me successful or able to collect for so long is I don't view any of that stuff as values. I will never sell any of this stuff. A few things I will put up. If it's not Doctor Strange stuff, if I'm breaking a box, I'll put that stuff up for sale and that. But all the Doctor Strange stuff, I give more stuff away at conventions and at shows than I will ever sell, because that furthers the hobby. It gets people interested in the character. I'll hide it, like C2E2 here in Chicago. I hide cards around the convention floor, and if they find the cards, they can bring them in and get trading cards and comic books and free stuff and stuff like that. And I'd rather contribute to the hobby more than I will never make money on any of this. Whoever gets my collection after I die, or if I pass on and my wife has to sell it off, that I won't make any money on the collection ever. And that's never been my intent. So that's how I look at my collection, is it's never, they're like this and money and get this. It's like, I don't care about any of that stuff personally, because it's never an issue. What is an issue, because I don't do that, is trading. Because obviously I normally don't have, a lot or other stuff to trade. I'm not a big e-packer unless it's something specific. So I end up having to work backdoor trades or wait till the stuff hits eBay or secondary markets and pay a little bit, more for it. But since I'm a single character collector, it's that I'm just focused on that one character in those cards. But Doctor Strange has been hit because of the MCU movies. He's everywhere now. The last
you've gotten screwed.
Premiere or Masterpieces, at every set's got 8 to 15 Doctor Strange cards in it, and he's in almost all the chases. So it's a very the past 2 or 3 years has been a very expensive endeavor, just because he's in everything, because he's kind of the cornerstone for the next phase of the Marvel movies in a way. So they're basically going to put his face on everything they can, and it's nice. But Doctor Strange has never really been a level 1 or level 2 character when it's come to like trading cards and stuff like that, but he's kind of at least moved up to the level 2 spot now. He's not a Wolverine or whatever, but he's definitely commanding prices that are that are getting up there. So
yeah, and I think it's funny, you've mentioned so many amazing things, and you've hit so many big benchmarks for like bigger discussions. Like, it's funny, if you look at us three, we kind of fall the whole spectrum of character collecting. I think Donald, between all three of us, has the most cards featuring Doctor Strange that are coming out recently. And yeah, your character's being featured on Battle Spectra, your character's being featured on base. You know what I mean? I mean, there's quite a bit variation on the character and different types of cards and variants that are coming out. Ian's been hit up by Black Cat, but not as much, right? I mean, she was in MM 2020. She was in 18, but as a battle, right?
Yeah. The 18 one didn't work for me because she's with another character. But
right, so
I avoided that. But
the rooster in the hen house, huh?
I can't do it. Especially actually, to be fair, that's mainly a sketch card rule. If there's a sketch card of Black Cat, if there's any other character in there with her, I don't go near it. So yeah, she's got to be on her own. She's got to be all mine. But no, I've had anime. I've had
some too.
Annual. What else? In my head, I heard you purring there, Donald, but I know you didn't. But that in my head, that's what I heard. And she's going to be all over ages.
She's going to be all over ages.
Yeah,
ages are going to be killer.
Yeah, I mean the one thing
tough for you guys.
Well, the thing is, I know that actually the first half of the year is going to be quite a rough one for me, but then it's going to ease, because you remember when we spoke to Travis from Upper Deck, he said a lot of their publishing content was the first half of the year because of the delays they've had on some of the Marvel Studios content. So that's kind of going to be back half of the year. But I guess from your point of view, Don, you don't have that respite. Noren's got a little bit of time before he's back in the saddle.
I've gotten super lucky. Like, being on the very other end of the spectrum, I've been able to catch up for the last few years. Very luckily been able. I mean, 16 was hard because my character was tier 4, so that was really tough. Really tough. But It's
not that I want to say I don't want Doctor Strange in not in a set, but it's you need some of those catch-up periods to,
Yes.
especially when they're in all the chases and that, that drains your money and it drains your budget, and you can't, catch up on a few of the other things you missed. It's like, well, do I want to go back and, maybe shoot for a red spectrum or shoot for, something else? You can't, at least, for my budget level, you just can't, just wing it out there like that. You've got to have a little bit of time to squirrel some money away for some of those larger purchases. And it's when you're hit every couple of months with another big set, it kind of keeps you having to keep up with the new set, as opposed to, catching up on a little bit of your backlog that, because a lot of times when the sets come out, you might not have the opportunity to get one of the 1 in 25s or the 1 in 10s or the 1 in 5s. So that turns into more of a long-term goal where you just have to wait till one pops up, in the market to be able to get a hold of and also at the price you want to pay. It's because I collect everything. I'm a completionist. If I have to pass on a card or pass on something because it's not the price point I want, then I do, because I know for the vast majority of the stuff, it will become available again.
It does, and it always does.
Things. Yeah.
It always does. Things always come. I mean, Ian and I have had this conversation all the time. Things come out when they come out. There's no, they all come around. They come around. I mean, I had to do the Rittenhouse, the 10s, the diamonds for 75th and 70th or whatever. I had to wait 2 years to get the final diamond, 2.5 years or something crazy like that. And it was nowhere to be found. I mean, and I'm, very, very fortunately met a lot of kind people and people who have quite a bit of cards in their collection and know many other people in networking. I never found who the hell had all those. They just appeared on ComC, luckily, and I've never found the person who had it. You know what I mean? Maybe I do know them, and they wanted to put them up when they wanted to put them up. I don't know. I don't even know who that was who had them, because they listed. I think Donald and I talked about it, right? They listed like 20 or 30 of those diamonds. Do you guys remember that?
About it. Yeah.
Because they just suddenly popped up on ComC after not being found for years. I think it's also because of the card boom right now. I think we're going to get really lucky with a lot of things being thrown on eBay, and I think now's the time to hunt, because everybody's digging cards out because of the card boom. So I think we're just about hopefully going to get lucky and do complete some.
And I think,
but Donald,
But
no, I was going to say, you said something really awesome about, just being happy with choosing what you're deciding to do for your collection. You know what I mean? That's something I've always had to do too. You have to make your own parameters, especially when you're a budget collector like us. You know what I mean? Who can't just buy cases and cases and crack things. Because I think there's multiple ways of doing it, right? You have the collector who buys tons of cases, cracks a lot of product, and has a lot to trade for things they want. You know what I mean? I think that's a type of collector. And then you have the collector like me who has to hunt for everything, because I don't have trade stuff either, which is what I want to bring up. And when you don't have trade stuff, you know what I mean? You kind of have to wait for group breaks and beg and plead and, promise sexual favors, all that kind of good stuff, just to get what you need.
Yeah, when you were talking about that group of cards that came up, which is what I see too, is just because the cards have gotten so much more expensive, some people are having to reevaluate their collections. When MM20 came out, that was a significant cost for anybody who wanted to put any sets together or runs together. So you kind of have to go back to your collection and figure out what can I maybe get rid of to free up some money, so I can afford to get a case or get this or to get that. And I think the past year or two, some of those things that some of those cards people would never think about actually selling, they've just been sitting in a drawer, they're reevaluating and, well, maybe I really don't dig these. I put this set together 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I really don't dig it anymore. Maybe I should try and get a little bit of money off that so I can put that now into M20 or whatever, one of the bigger sets that they know is going to cost them some money. And times change too. Last year and so far into this year, the financial scene is a wreck because of COVID, and it will continue to be a wreck. Everything that has happened, if everybody gets a vaccine tomorrow and COVID goes away tomorrow, the financial ramifications of everything that's happened will still progress throughout the rest of this year. So it's very much a you'll see collections, just put up for auction, be it like on eBay or actually put up onto Heritage or something, on one of the actual premium auction houses, just because of that. And it's a sad thing to see, but it happens. So your life changes. 1 year you could be doing very well and rocking and rolling, and then in 2 or 3 years you basically have to get rid of everything you've got just because of a life event or a medical problem or whatever it happens to be. And you see some of those collections come out, and that's where some of the really rare stuff comes out. Is somebody's passed on and their estate's selling it off, or somebody's having medical problems or whatever, and they got lots and lots of bills that stuff that they normally would never get rid of. And you hate to see that happen, but it also brings out some of that super rare stuff back into the market again and back into new collectors, where it can be enjoyed again. It can be people can get excited about it again, and things like that. So
So tell me about we mentioned it briefly before we started recording, but I find this quite interesting. So you mentioned that you came back to cards from kind of being into it. So, and I know that you're currently on a journey that's connected with that. So to talk to me about 2016, what happened in 2016?
So 2016, the Doctor Strange movie came out, which was a fantastic movie. If you've never seen it in 3D, you got to give it a watch in 3D. It lends itself extremely well to 3D. We saw it in IMAX 3D, and it was a kicker. It was awesome. But of course, a new movie came out, so a new trading card set comes out, and I was so upset at the Upper Deck 2016 set that I literally stopped collecting trading cards for a few years. Because they basically came out and punched me in the face saying, all right, you looked at the advertisement and it said, all right, a box was this price. And then you're like, okay, that's cool. I'll order a couple boxes. And then you found out, no, it was a hobby box, meaning there was a single card in that box. And for a single card, it was like initial retail was like $15 or $16 for that single card. And they billed it as every card is a hit. No, it's not. Just because it's got a number stamped on the back because the entire run is limited doesn't make every card a hit. A hit is a coin card or a cut card or an autograph card or a costume card. That's a hit. And it to me, to be honest, it came off as a giant money grab. That really, really upset me. That was the first Upper Deck set or the first time collecting Doctor Strange where I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to play the game. So it literally put me off collecting for a few years, and I didn't start back up until about a year and a half ago, end of 2018. And I started having to play the catch-up game on all the stuff I missed. But what's kind of interesting is that 2016 set is my main focus right now because the chases in that set are very, very cool. They got some really cool Wicked chases, both on EPAC and on the hobby set. Right now I'm trying to finish the Book of Cagliostro hobby set books out. I just finished. I've got 5 cards. I just put a post up on the card group trying to find my last 5 cards. The silver parallel. They're limited to 50 cards. It's a 50 card base set, but they're limited to 50 cards each. So I've got all but 5 cards of those. Trying to finish up those last 5 cards. The gold set is 1 in 25s. I don't think I'm going to kind of push that off, but besides the gold set, I'm going to basically try and master set the whole set, which is just under 1,000 cards for that 2016 between EPAC and hobby. There's 2 parallels I won't get just because I won't be able to find them. They'll be too expensive. The coin sets where they do the cover price, they put the coins in the card for what the cover price of the comic was. There is a parallel Strange Change that is signed by Stan Lee. So I'm pretty sure I won't get any of those cards. And Cumberbatch has several dozen or 15 or 20 signed cards in that set, and one of them alone is like regularly $1,500 to $2,000 on eBay. So just for that card. So besides, I'll get a Cumberbatch. One of them I'll get a Cumberbatch signature on, but I won't get all the Cumberbatch signatures, and I definitely can't get all the Stan Lees for the Strange Change. But besides that, I'm trying to master set the rest of it. Luckily, there's no plates.
You're a beast.
But it's my current goal. It was a big goal for last year, and it's my primary goal for this year for cards. And I'm getting pretty close. Well, not pretty close, but by the end of this year, I should have it pretty topped off. It's just the hobby sets. The hobby sets were very, very limited. The main base set was 150. The silver was 50, and the gold is 25. And each one of those has their own. All the chases have the same number, so each base, silver and gold, each has the same chases for those same numbers. So it'll be a good run. But I'm really enjoying the chases. I love the chases, some of the EPAC stuff with the projections, the projection cards and stuff like that.
Oh, I love those.
Those are cool.
I love those astral projections. I've got 4 in hand so far.
So it's really wicked. The card set that pissed me off and made me stop actually collecting for a few years is the card set that's got me most focused currently. It's a weird thing.
I tell you what I find fascinating about that set is you can see that because that's one of the first releases on EPAC. And you can see there's stuff that they tried that either stuck on the wall and they kept it going and they gradually phased it out, and there's other stuff that clearly didn't work. I mean, it's interesting we touched on astral projections because of course that's an EPAC exclusive and it is a hot pack, so you get a pack and you will have all the cards will be astral projections cards, which freaked me out the first time it happened. I was like, what's going on? But the other thing that Norrin and I have talked about, which is, I'm sure, something they could fix, but to this day really annoys me, is that you collect the physical chase sets on EPAC. So the Book of Cagliostro, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
I think I've murdered it. The Sanctum Stars, the Behind the Lens, whatever it is. And when you get the achievement for collecting those, it's the only set where you lose all the cards that you gained when you go for the achievement.
Yeah.
Which, remember when I first redeemed and I lost the 15 cards I'd been chasing, and I messaged them and they were like, yeah, that's how it is with that set. And I to this day I still think that's a real cheat.
Well, that and the base card combo too. That really, I don't want to say upset me, but it's the base cards when you buy the EPAC boxes and cases and packs, the base cards aren't physical, so you have to combine them, and it's 20 base cards, and those packs and cases and stuff are not cheap. So you have to basically, just to get the silver, the first level of physical, you have to combine 20 of every card.
Well, we did it, didn't we? Do you remember when we did that episode on our YouTube?
I watched it.
Yes, I do.
No one's probably forgotten this already, but we.
No, I just remembered. It's funny because I looked over at you and I was like, "Wait a minute, didn't we see that? We did a whole episode around that."
Yes,
yeah,
I know.
And that silver set's a pretty set. That's
it's a very pretty set.
Yeah,
I'm sure it will be when I eventually get it in hand, because I've got to obviously pay the 25 cents and then wait 4 years for it to be shipped. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting it in hand. I mean, I've been getting into that set, and I've got all of the single. So they've got the wonderful costume cards, the Vishanti's Vestments.
Yep.
And I've got all of the single ones now on EPAC. I think I've got 2 doubles to get, maybe a few of the triples, and then there's a couple of signed ones. I think there's a Cumberbatch and a Tilda Swinton one.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Which I probably won't be able to afford. So for me,
4 more.
Well, there we go. Oh, you've got them all in hand as well. Marvelous. Mine are just pictures on a screen. I just kind of lick the screen occasionally when I want to look at them. But the what's interesting for me, I think if it's interesting you talking about your budget and things like that. I'm crazy in that I'm not just in one lane. I try and get everything, and I drive myself mad. But no, I do, and I'm my own worst enemy. I'm in that sense, in that I've constantly, if I look at my binders now, I've got 30 to 40 sets that are in various stages of completion. And I can honestly say that there's only maybe 1 or 2 sets that I've finished in terms of masterpiece. Yeah, they're all masterpieces ones, actually. 2017, 2007, sorry, 2008. Yeah, I finished all of those completely.
Nice.
And then maybe, for me, I finished what I'm going for on 2018. So that,
sometimes the fun is in the the pun is in the chase.
Yes.
And it's sometimes it kind of, once the chase is over, you put it in a box and you put it on the shelf and you kind of forget about it and it goes away. But so I like some of those collecting goals where it takes me years. I've waited decades to get certain things, and and that's the fun of it, is you never know when, because I'm all over. I'm on Heritage, I'm on eBay, I'm on all the different auction houses, and then even stuff like Macari. You never know when something's going to pop up somewhere that's going to be something unique. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I see Norrin's got his head in his hands because he knows what I'm about to do. I said,
so Donald, he's been really, really crazy about this case, and you're about to hear it open because he's so excited. So
it's kind of a standard for every episode now. You're not supposed to bury the lead on that one, Norrin. But no, you put it in a box, or you put it in a shelf, or you put it in one of these. Oh,
Jesus Christ!
Which is where my black cat collection is now residing, in two of these fine cases.
Well, that brings up an interesting story.
They are beautiful cases.
I wigged out and sent Norrin like 15 PMs after I saw Titan Cards doing the what was this Star Wars break that comes in the metal case that costs $9,000 for the Stellar. And I was losing my mind watching this. And within 4 hours, I sent Norrin a list, and I said, all right, I'm going to do my own Stellar set for Doctor Strange. I've already printed out my chases, my cards that I'm doing, the autograph cards. That's why I don't know if you've seen the custom sketch card stock I was putting together with the Doctor Strange archive on it with the foil.
Okay.
It's actually, I'm going to build a exotic wood case that's going to look like something you'd find in the Sanctum Sanctorum, and each drawer is going to house, there's going to be 2 drawers of sketches where there'll be a 5x7 in the middle flanked by 4 3x4s. There'll be 2 drawers of those, and then there'll be a base set and some chase sets. But I saw that and I'm like, all right, I have to up my game as far as my customization level. So I'm actually putting together a hand carved and wood. I'm thinking about putting a stained glass top on it with the stained glass Doctor Strange with a little bit of a backlight on it, and it'll have like an Eye of Agamotto on it. But the drawers will have each of those things placed in there. That's my primary fabrication goal for this year.
So jealous.
The cards, the signature cards will have to be something that I do at conventions. So I'll pick like 5 or 10 actors, and then if I can run into them at the conventions, I'll have them sign the card, but they'll be like actor signature cards. But I'm gonna print them. I'm just do the whole thing myself, and I'll foil stamp the numbers on the back and that. So I was like that set blew my mind as far as the level of kind of quality and what it put together. It's like, okay, I've got to do something like that for Doctor Strange. So
no, it was hilarious too, because like everybody knows by now that I went on a little Mando tour, and I'll talk. I have an interesting story about that one too. But I was sitting there and I was watching our friend who we've spoken to on Titan Cards, Allie. Is that her name?
Yeah,
Allie.
no. Yeah. She's on our short list, but yes.
Yeah. Anyway, very nice. Anyway, she does these box breaks, and she was doing Stellar, and it's so funny. I sat down, and it's my first time watching Stellar, and I'm like waiting for a Mendo, right? Because that was like the set where he was going to have his signature in there. And then Donald is texting me all this stuff, freaking out on the price, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this nuttiness? Because I had no idea as well. And for listeners so they don't know, it's called Star Wars Stellar. There's 100 boxes. They come in this giant briefcase. They come with a 5x7 original art by 2 really amazing artists, Lois and Carlos Caballero and Lois Draper. I forget her name. And you have also autographs from actors from all over. So you have Harrison Ford autographs. You have, Carrie Fisher. Oh, no, I don't think I think Carrie Fisher sticker, or there's no sticker autos. It's all on card. You have triple autographs, double autographs. This just a massive thing that you pay basically $8,000 for. Is that right? $9,000 something dollars for. Super premium. Basically everything's guaranteed to be a hit. It's a very nutty thing. But I thought the same thing when you started texting me, Donald. I was like, how can I build myself a Silver Surfer briefcase and make it this thing as massive and as premium as that. But yeah, I thought the same thing, brother. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for this year, I've got that jumped to the top of my list, but I still have to. I started building a life-size orb of Agamotto. If you don't know what that is, but it's all hardwood carved stand and case, and then it's got an acrylic orb that inside it I'm putting a dark dementia diorama in it that's LED lit, and it's all custom bent plexiglass and spheres and custom sculpted on everything up inside the orb of Agamotto. Basically for a photo op prop, some of the stuff if you've seen the Vishanti window and stuff, I take to conventions so people can take pictures with it. I need to finish that up this year too. It's just that I was going to do it last year, but all the conventions kind of ended, in March. Yeah. So there was no big rush on trying to finish any of that up. But once I saw that stellar set, I'm like, nah, I got to start putting together Doctor Strange custom card set.
So talk to me. This is one thing you mentioned this in passing earlier on, and that's just reminded me. You mentioned, I think you said you lectured or you lecture in some context, and also about cons. So tell me about that aspect of it, because that is properly kind of next level stuff in terms of a collector and what they do with their collection and how they share it with people. So to touch on that, what do you do with both in terms of cons and about speaking?
Yeah, so out here in the Chicagoland area, we've got a lot of smaller conventions, and then C2E2 is kind of the biggest right now. We had our Wizard World still goes on, I think, but I personally haven't been to it in a while. It's just gotten kind of crazy. I won't get into that. But what I'll do is on occasion is I'll actually take an exhibit at the shows. I'll get a space, or they'll provide me a space, and I'll basically do like a museum exhibit where I'll set up display cases and bring in props and photo op things and stuff like that, so people can actually tour some of the history and see some of the things from years gone by, and some stuff they might not know existed. And then they can also take photos and stuff with some of the props and things I bring in. So it depends on the show. Sometimes I just bring in a table's worth of stuff, and people that are interested in Doctor Strange will talk about it, and then we'll hold some contests and that. Other things like C2E2, where they got a lot more space, will actually set up a lot more stuff where they can come in and walk around. And a lot of people seem to enjoy it. A lot of people don't realize how old, because they're just used to the MCU movies. They don't realize that Doctor Strange has been around since '63, and they really get interested in it. And sometimes it sparks other people who might not be as interested in the character and those types of things. You do run into some problems though too, because people want to buy everything and nothing's for sale. I put big gigantic signs up that say not for sale, for display only, and they'll actually get mad. They'll be like, so you're just here flexing, right? And I'm like, sure, if you want to look at it that way, fine, but none of it's for sale. It's like, especially stuff like the pops. I've got that Freddie Funko Doctor Strange, and pops that are worth $400-$500, and they'll be like trying to offer me ridiculous prices, and it's like, no, it's the XM Doctor Strange statue. Somebody tried to offer me like $1,400 for, which is twice retail, and I'm like, it's not for sale. I'm sorry. I can point you, if you're looking at buying one, I can maybe point you in the right direction and help you out with you acquiring one. But sometimes I get kind of upset with that. But we talk about all sorts of stuff, and then at some of the shows, I'll actually host a panel or do a panel or two and talk about different things from collecting, preservation, history of Doctor Strange, whatever it happens to be, different topics for different panels and stuff like that.
Cool.
Wow.
I love that. I love
that so much, man.
Imagine doing that, Noreen. I mean, I know you teach as your main profession. Imagine if you could start teaching about Silver Surfer and cross the streams to get paid.
Cross the streams.
Talk about Silver Surfer.
What's always... I think what's really nice about what Donald does is that he's bringing... I mean, you don't see collections like Donald's very often, right? And I think this is something we always talk about, that so many big collectors who do the original art, who do the comic books, who do the statues, who do everything that Donald does, those collections are not seen, right? For various reasons. Yeah. Mostly because either they don't want to be hounded as he has been hounded, or they don't want to, they don't want people to see their hand because they trade. A lot of times that happens with collectors, is where they're trading for original art and they don't want to show everyone what they have because then people would request those pieces. But, to go to a con and meet a collector on your scale, Donald, I think that's a really great thing you do. And I know that's not easy. And I know that takes a lot of work to do. And I've seen the photo stand you do. I see the time you spent on this and the knowledge you have. It's commemorable, man. It's a really fantastic thing you do and take the time to do. I really do think it's awesome.
It's a really good thing. And it's also, if you're not like a comic book store owner or something like that, you don't actually see what happens behind the convention scene. It's kind of cool too to get into that scene too, because you come in a day or two before you set up, you talk to the other vendors, you see how the actual conventions are put together. You can talk to some of the artists and other things before the floor gets totally crunched with people, and everything else. So it's kind of a cool thing too on that aspect. It's a lot of work, but it's also a little bit different scene that you normally don't get into, or a lot of people normally don't see or get into. It's kind of cool too.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, I actually just started going to cons for the first time, just right before the pandemic hit. I was planning on doing more, and then they stopped. No, I ruined it. I think it was me. I think like this guy. So we can't let this go on.
You're patient zero, clearly.
We started going to the first cons we actually went to were San Diego Comic-Con back in the early 90s when I lived out there, because I was in the Marine Corps for 11 years and I was stationed out there. So even San Diego Comic-Con, you go to the shows back in the 90s and the 80s and even the 70s, it was an awesome deal. Now it's it's a money grab in a lot of situations. Now you could, if you wanted to buy something from an actor or from an artist, that was perfectly cool, but you could always get your photo taken with them. Now, if you lift your camera up there, like, you better be waving $100 at me, to take your photo with me. It's just so super expensive, and you see the stories of all these people dragging suitcases of money away from the conventions, which is it's fine. It's your career. It's your, you need to make your money and make what you're worth and stuff like that. But the personal level, you go to these shows and you might pay $100, $200, or $300 to get something signed by an actor, and literally you're in front of them for 15 seconds, and then the handler pushes them off. There's very little interaction. It's all about how many people they can push through. The biggest example of that is the Stan Lee stuff. The last 5 years died was just.
Of course.
And if you saw it, if you went to one of the shows like C2E2 and that where he was there signing, it was kind of weird. But it's you got to make your money. I got no problem with that. But the convention scene is very, very much changed, where you could sit down and talk to an artist. You could talk to a very well-known artist, or even the Star Wars stuff. I went to one of the ones in San Diego in the 90s that had Jeremy Bullock, had Prowse, had Kenny Baker. Wow. Everybody, they were just on the same table, just kind of lined up. You could talk to them and walk down the table. And then a few years ago, we were at one show where I was watching Lou Ferrigno yell at a dude for taking his picture without paying him. So
what?
It was kind of it's just kind of a different scene, but I still love enjoying going to them, because you can't see, just for the cosplay and all the extra stuff that goes on. It's such a
it's
great
really
scene
the people. Yeah, it's really from. And I went to smaller ones. I do not have the con experience that Donald has at all.
Weirdly, UK don't really have much of that at all.
Yeah, poor Ian doesn't have a con. Yeah,
I mean, I honestly, I said I'd do it for my 40th. I don't know if I'll do it for my 50th. I'm only 4 years behind you, Don. But I've always wanted to go to San Diego Comic-Con because for me that's like Mecca. It's like it's a pilgrimage that I want to do. Just for the experience of having gone there and just being there, regardless of whether I get my photo taken with someone. I mean, we do have some in the UK, but very few. Relative to what you've got in the States. And as for the comic part of the name Comic-Con, very few of the ones I've been to have had much in the way of comics either.
That's the way it's gone for easily the past several years. Is it's very little comics anymore, and it's more cosplay, more anime, more
loads of anime.
You go to C2E2 and there'll be 10 different stands and mystery boxes, 10 different giant areas where people just buy mystery boxes of random stuff. It has nothing to do with
what, like Loot Crate type things, you mean?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Those mystery boxes are a big thing, and which is cool. Like I said, society, like I was saying before, people change, collectors change, society changes, and things kind of shift. Even if comic books went away at some point and weren't a thing anymore, the characters and all that would still be around in one form or another. It just changes throughout the decades.
Yeah. I love that. No, and I think it's really, and from when I went to that con, I got to meet Ron Lim, who was my first introduction to Surfer. So I got really lucky, and it was a small con. It was a Raleigh Galaxy Con or whatever it's called. And he was there, and, I was super early because I'd never been to a con before. So I just happened to go there and meet at Beeline. And so I got to talk to him, look at his original art, have a nice conversation. Him and his wife were there and his kid. And he was super nice and it was pleasant. I got to meet the writer for Babylon 5 and Silver Surfer Rec Room. I can't pronounce his name, J. Michael Straczynski, who was super cool, JMS. And then I got to meet Tom Fleming, which was super fun because he's connected to everybody we've spoken to, Dave DeVries and everybody else. So it was a really nice experience for me. But I really did learn very quickly that the con circuit is really about the people who are there. You know what I mean? Not the actors, not the vendors, but like the collectors. You know what I mean? If there's like a good vibe and the cosplayers, like that's really the experience. At least that's what I noticed. Yep. And I thought that was really, really nice. Yeah, nice community thing. Kind of like what we got going on here. You know what I mean? It's really the people that make the group fun, type of thing.
Yep, you have more fun sometimes, off the show floor, out in the foyer, and all the side stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
The panels, and then you get, because once you get onto the floor on those big shows, you're just shoulder to shoulder, basically brutalizing people trying to get down the aisles to try and get what you want. But if you go to the big shows, you really have to do, the multiple days, because some days will be a little bit slower than other days, and you can get into the person that you want to talk to a lot easier. I was lucky enough, Kevin Nolan is one of my big favorite guys for Doctor Strange. He's in one of my top 5 artists, and I was lucky enough to get in early enough the one day where the traffic was real low, and sat and talked to him and his wife for quite a while about things and that. So you definitely can get those opportunities. It's just that sometimes you have to wait for them.
That's awesome.
Well, if it's worth waiting for, it's got to be
almost definitely.
Yeah. Just because I'm curious, and I think it'd be good for our listeners to kind of hear as well. You mentioned that you were. I says almost knocking my TV over. And you mentioned that you were in the Marine Corps. So what's your kind of day? You're not in the Marine Corps anymore, I'm guessing. What's your day job? What does this kind of give you respite from when you come home and you build your cases and your storage?
So full circle, I was born in Missoula, Montana. Great state to grow up in as a kid. Right out of high school, I joined the Marine Corps. I spent 11 years in the Marine Corps. I was in the infantry, and then I was a Marine Corps drill instructor for a few years, and then finished out teaching. And I've been actually teaching at the university and college level for 25 years now, 28 years. After that, I was in the private sector for a little bit. I worked for companies that did network security for Fortune 500 companies. I eventually got hired by a company called Lucent that kind of went under in 2000 in a way. So I wanted a job where I was going to be home and knew where I was going to be every night and those types of things, because most of my life I was overseas or constantly traveling and that. So I was always a public servant of one form or the other. So I got hired as a deputy sheriff at a county out here in Illinois. It's the second largest county outside of Cook, where Chicago's at. And I'm currently a detective. I do crime scene work. So basically any of the TV shows that you see that like CSI and those types of things, that's what I've been doing for over a decade now. I've been a cop for almost 18 years now. So I got 2 more years before I retire full circle and head back to Montana and get my cabin with a nice porch and be able to build out a permanent display room and those types of things. So basically, my job's a little bit different than most. I kind of see the worst society has to offer on a day-to-day basis and some of the ugliest things. So when I come home, I leave all that stuff at the door and open my comic books. I go into my workshop and I build something, or I 3D print something, or I do something else that I enjoy very much. So,
and that's why I wanted to touch on that, because that's such a wonderful yin and yang. You know, the positive energy with the, you know, maybe less desirable stuff that you encounter in your day job. So. I love that. I find that really interesting. Aside from the fact that Don is possibly the only person we've spoken to on the podcast that can kill people 6 different ways just by looking at them due to his military training. Although I have to say, Sinkovich looked like he knew how to handle himself.
Sinkovich.
That's something funny too. Is people will. People normally don't know what my day job is or what my past has been, and they'll be we have a big comic book chain out here called Graham Cracker Comics that I get all my comic books and stuff from. I got a local store here that treats me very well, and people will come in and say, "Hey, there's this dude that's got this giant Doctor Strange collection. He's so cool, and he's got this thing out there." And it's like, "Yeah, he shops here. This is actually a shop." And he's like, they start talking about something else. This is like, "Yeah, he's also, you know, a detective here for the county." It's like, "There's no way that dude's a cop. There's no way."
Infamy. So you've got people going into the store saying,
funny.
"Oh, I've got to tell you about this really cool guy. He's got this really great collection." I
love that so much. That's great.
Fantastic. Do you seriously, are you planning to like retire then back to Montana?
Yeah, that's our current thing. In another just over 2 years, hopefully we'll be leaving Illinois and back to Montana.
That's exciting.
Huey Lewis lives there. He's got a ranch.
Lots
You got to move right next door to him.
Well, it's Montana. You know, it's a small place. You must know him. You know.
Yeah, you're going to be right. Yeah.
Oddly enough, there's a big giant lake up there called Flathead Lake. It's like the largest freshwater lake west of the Great Lakes. Lots of famous people would have houses up there, and Tom Selleck used to have a house up there, and we'd boat by his house all the time. And but those are all the people that drive up the real estate prices up there.
Yeah.
Famous people out of it.
It's like that. It's like that in Miami a bit too. Like we have so I was on Southwest 20th Street and maybe 20 blocks away from Coral Way and Vizcaya and all this other stuff. And we had Madonna, Sylvester Stallone, and some other big houses. But basically, it was really cool. You would like drive into this little community, open, no fences, and then you would have the beach right behind him, and you had all these houses lined up. And it was the same thing. Like every other actor was there, Shaquille O'Neal, bunch of crazy people that's that way. But yeah, it's just that waterfront, build up the retail prices, have these giant houses. Yeah. No, you do that on a Sunday drive when you're like, let's go see what the rich people are doing. Yeah, I remember that well. I think
one day that'll be us.
One day that would be us. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Donald, by the way, man. We appreciate you sharing that kind of stuff. And I think it's lovely what you're doing, my friend. And I'm really happy that you're friends with us and we get to talk hobby stuff and take a little stress off your day. You know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff.
Nice. Love it. Love it.
Well, we love it as well. I especially love seeing it kind of gives me goals as well when I see some of the stuff that you're doing. It's kind of like, wow, I never thought of approaching it that, which is actually quite cool that collectors bounce off each other like that. That we've kind of got that going on now, which always amazes me. So obviously you're working on the 2016 set. I'm just curious to know what you're, because I know what you're making in 2021. I had to think about what year it was then, 2021. So you've got your orb that you want to do. You've got your stellar level case that you want to do. But in terms of the cards you want to put in it, what's coming up on your horizon that's either about to come out or still hasn't been acquired from recent releases? What's your current chase?
Well, I've got 2020. The only thing I'm missing from Marvel Masterpieces 2020 is I still need my Speckle, and I don't have any of the actual live Palumbo signatures. I think it's 2 cards with that, but I've got everything else. Anime. I think the only thing I'm missing from anime is the red 1 and 5 capsules, and of course Doctor Strange has 2 of them, not just 1. He's in Defenders and Avengers. But I've knocked pretty much those out. So I'm kind of just waiting for Ages about 3 weeks from today, unless it gets pushed again. I think Ages is currently scheduled for the first week in February, unless it gets pushed again. So I'm squirreling a little money away from that because I think he's got a 1 in 10 at least, and then a bunch of other cards. But the big one is the unknown is the Black Diamond. That's still kind of a big unknown on how many cards Doctor Strange will have in that. That's kind of a set where I'm hoping 1, but it won't be. The Black Diamond's probably the biggest as far as something you're having to plan for.
Yeah.
But I'm also I'm anticipating him having his own set for the new movie that's coming out in 2 years.
The Madness, right? What is that one? What's the name of it?
Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. So I want to try to put together a master set of that, just like I'm doing with 2016, or as close to it as I can get. So I've actually already started putting some money away for that because I know it'll be a significant cost. But it's like anything else when you budget for things. I've got a couple projects that I know I need, so I put $20 in an envelope here, $20 in an envelope there, and after a year or 2 years, there's enough money in there to do what you want. So you look at something that looks very expensive, but if you chip away with it beforehand, if you plan for it, it doesn't interfere with you buying groceries or anything else, and you've got that money when it comes up, and it doesn't impact the rest of your life. And that's what my teaching jobs I do. That's my hobby money. I normally don't actually spend any of my regular income on my hobbies. I work the teaching jobs, and that's where my mad money comes from, and I have no problem spending that money on crazy stuff like that because it's not actually my regular income stream. So So really looking forward to that. Well, Age is coming up, then looking forward to Black Diamond, and we obviously know there's some other card sets coming out this year, but those are the two, kind of the next two I believe that should be coming out.
Yeah.
And then just kind of squirreling some budget away for some of the other stuff that I know that'll be coming out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start doing that myself because what I usually do is I fund the hobby with my hobby stuff sometimes. So like if there's things that I've had for a while and I'm like, not so much part of like my collection, whatever, the only reason I would ever sell it is to get something else for the hobby. I'm just not in the position to hold on to everything. And sometimes I want to be, but also I'm very squirrely. I don't know what it is. Like this recent like display thing I've made for myself is kind of like has like key things that I want in like a little display corner. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm marking my parameter. Like for Mando, I did a sketch and an autograph, which was very, very expensive. But, now I have my little display option, put the box in the back. I got the Mando helmet from Hasbro because I'm a dork. You know what I mean? I have my little display thing kind of set up for it now. And I'm pretty happy with that. And that's it. That's how I know that's done. You know what I mean?
You're going to get the figure.
But so I still don't know which one I want to get. I do want to get the first one we talked about, like the Mando outfit where he's first introduced. Did you already get him? I know you got some. You showed me them.
I got some. Yeah, they're way over there, so I can't get them. So what we're talking about, Don, and listeners, because believe it or not, there are people listening, is there's I've avoided Star Wars figures because there's a rabbit hole. What they do is they do what's called the vintage collection, where they either reissue the original run, but they also release figures from either the prequel trilogy or the Abrams trilogy. I guess the best way to call it. I'm not sure what that's called. And some of the animated stuff in the style of the original Kenner line. So it's got the Kenner logo on there. And they're up to about 170 odd figures, and they've released them in different waves. Well, the first Mando figures came into that last April 2020. And there are a couple of figures in there, and then there's been some in the December 2020 wave, and there's some coming up in May, I think. But there's been a couple of Mandos. There's one with his original armor. There's one with his Beskar armor. And there's one with him. There's a limited edition one with him and the child in the same blister pack. And you were struggling to know which one to go for.
I am. I definitely want to do the vintage one and I'm pretty happy with. I think I'm gonna do that. I got the like Black Series one, but yeah, I do need a figure, so I will be doing a figure for sure. And I do like the vintage one because I love the design of the packaging. Yes. Right? I'm just a huge fan of that like old school Star Wars stuff because I had those figures growing up. But what's nice is that, you know, and a good point that Donald brought up is that you have to kind of like, I don't know. You don't have to, obviously. People hate when I say that. But like me, I need to know where I'm going before I start investing money into things. You know what I mean? Just for me. I just have to know, where am I going? Where do I want to hit? And what am I going to be okay with saying, okay, that's enough? Because I know once Surfer starts coming into packs and stuff like that and card sets coming out, I'm not going to be able to have everything. You know what I mean? I can't. Yeah.
There's something to put into your case. Especially if you're doing just like a shelf of one character with a couple things in it of different things, and it's not a gigantic collection. I cannot rave enough about the Hot Toys 6 scale figures. The Star Wars line is out of control. They are so bad. I've got both Doctor Stranges. They did a 6 scale in 2016 for the movie, and then they came out with another one. I think it was last year. I've got both of them. The craftsmanship, they are just killer. And I saw the Mando one. Wow. They're all, doesn't matter if it's R2D2 or just the droid. The craftsmanship, they are just so wicked cool, and they look great standing on a shelf next to a comic book, next to a couple of cards or whatever. There's the eye pop is just crazy. Wow. I love them. I can never, and they're always a draw. Anytime that I have them out on display, people just freaking oogle over them because the clothes, everything's fabric, everything's, you know.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's
they're
you know,
they're photorealistic. Like it looks like you have a miniature Mando there. Like it's
Hot Toys.
I'm gonna share my screen so you can. I'm gonna share my screen. So you go to sideshow.com. Okay, I'll show you now. I have sharing rights, but yeah, you go to sideshow.com.
Yeah, Skype, you just do it. I'm just googling here just to see if there's ever been a black cat. That's all I'm doing.
No, I don't think there's a black cat yet.
Yeah,
there's no black cat yet. But these are like pretty insane. Let me go to Hot Toys because I feel there they are. Yeah, Donald, damn you. So I've been like really not wanting to. I've been really not wanting to do this. No, these are amazing. So let's go here, I guess.
You can even pull up the Scarlet Witch or whatever. They're all just freaking.
Yeah. They're gorgeous. They're really,
all posable,
really,
all accessories.
So we got Avengers. So these are all posable. They have fabric on them. They're very, very detailed. My internet's going slow. They're very, very detailed. It's kind of insane how posable they are. Still trying to find. Right, I did that, and like they gave me some issues. So let's see.
This is fascinating.
Okay, so here's one. So here's a pre-order one. So you see, this is the actual figure, but you can pose it. So you have this pose. So this is what it looks like, and then you can do all these different poses.
Right. So the Mandalorian. Send me this link for the tasting notes. We'll put this in the tasting notes, folks.
Yes, we'll let everybody see what this is. But they're really, really nice.
Top quality. They're the stuff, especially the Star Wars line, is just killer.
I'm so close to getting one, but like they're nice, man. Like
this is Mandalorian and the child we're looking at here, and he's been in more poses than Saturday Night Fever at this point. You just keep scrolling through all these things. You kind of want to do it really fast and put some music to it, which I might actually do for the tasting notes. I might do a little
GIF.
I might do a little GIF. Yes, thank you for sending me that link.
That's another thing that I always have to look at too. Is I collect everything, so it's, you know, my budget has to be what I spend on the collection. You know, obviously isn't just cards; it's statues, action figures, advertisements, records, LPs, concert posters with Doctor Strange on it. It's I collect the whole gambit, so I always have to pay attention to what I'm spending in any particular area, because I still need to be working on those other areas of the collection also.
Oh, it's fascinating. Beast. I love it. There obviously hasn't been a Black Cat one of those, because the Black Cat hasn't existed as a photo real thing. So I'm sure there will be other people. I've not gone into the figures at all. I just simply don't have the space, and I don't have the kind of display case setup that I know you have, and I know a lot of collectors have glass cases that you can buy with lights in and a sealable that help with dust and things like that. I've just never really been able to go there with that. We've never had a home big enough or
right.
So, and we've moved a lot. We've moved maybe in the last. I've been with my wife coming up 13 years. We've had almost that many places we've lived in that time. So this is the longest place we've lived anywhere. So I've never really done that. I'm very much used to packing it up and moving it around. So, which is why I'm enjoying it here. I'm going to share my screen now, because quite frankly, it wouldn't be a Doctor Strange archive episode if we didn't open a couple of packs.
Nice.
On EPAC.
Yeah.
I will say I've only bought 2 of them, and there are 5 cards in each. 4 of them will be digital, so let's not get too excited. But you never know, because we did one on episode, and I got a costume card. Do you remember, Norrin?
That's right. Yeah.
Thing.
No, he killed it.
And most of the time we did really badly, and then one time I got, I think. So let's do this. Let's do this right now, and let's go. So pack 1. That's a digital base. Tilda Swinton, Old Baldy.
Nice.
That's a digital base of. So cards 51 to 60 are the character shots, and one of those is the movie poster. Again, it takes you 20 to get those, but you don't get those in the daily free e-pack.
I actually have the case topper of that card, the 1 in 5.
Oh, nice.
It's the case topper, yeah.
Nice. And so those I don't yet have. I don't yet have the silvers of those, and I could buy them on ComC, but I'm gradually chipping away at them, so that's nice. Another digital. So the next one will be physical.
All right, here we go.
It is Sanctum Stars insert Mordo.
Nice.
Yeah, I like those. I've got, like I said, I've got the set. This is all kind of, unless I get a costume card or an auto, then it's this is just fun.
I think I just posted that set a day or 2 ago out on the.
I think you did, yeah, because you've got them all, haven't you? And you've been going after the coloured parallels as well.
Yeah.
Phil, I'm just going to save an image of this just very quickly, so that I can put it on the tasting note so that people can see the cards that we pulled, which will be thrilling. I'm sure they're all pushing their chairs over right now and rushing off to look at that. Pack 2, let's do it.
Pack 2.
Here we go. So, digital base, Doctor Strange. I can't remember. I should know the names of all these cards, because I pull them every day. I can't remember what they're called. But when they come up, and there's like a name for each of them. The number of these I've opened, it's like, I just jumped ahead there. There we go. So second card was a digital base of what's that character's name?
Caecilius.
Thank you very much.
I love that actor. That actor's done some great.
Oh, he's great.
Mads Mikkelsen. Did you see him at Hannibal?
Yes, love that series.
Hannibal Lecter. Yes,
I actually just started rewatching it on Netflix a couple of weeks ago.
I've still not finished it, because it was genuinely disturbing. I mean, properly.
It was awesome.
My wife stopped watching it because she was having nightmares. I mean, it's properly out there. But we saw a really good film with him in, a Danish film called The Hunt, because he's a Danish actor.
I saw it. No, I actually saw that. Yeah, it was foreign language, but
which is properly deep. It touches on some pretty deep stuff. So the third card is a physical card, which tells me that card 4, where the physical card normally is, could be something a bit special. I hope. Ooh. But normally when it falls out of order like that, there's something different going on. So we'll see. So the third card is Enchanted Arsenal, and it's Daniel Drim. Is that Daniel Drim's staff?
Daniel Drum, yeah.
Daniel Drum, thank you very much. So card 4, what will it be? And it's a costume card. Look at that. Daniel, It is Mads Mikkelsen's character, Caecilius, Vishanti's Vestments, single swatch. And that's nice. That's got some good texture on it. Now, I've already got this one, so that'll be a trader, but I'll check my other one and just check. Look at this. Brilliant. I love it. Well, we'll have you on more often. There we go. And then pack 5, card 5 is just another digital. So that's
one of the best scenes.
Wow.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah. That's a great scene.
So, yeah, happy with that. Thank you very much. Money's worth. I will save that.
Wow.
There we go.
And I would get anywhere near those pulls. It was I'm so unlucky when I break. I always try to buy a physical, or each new release I try to buy a physical box just because I still like breaking boxes. And I also like to keep the box in the packaging, so I have a record of for that particular series what the wax pack of the wrappers look like and then of the box. But I never have any luck when I break a box. I always have to buy my stuff on the secondary market.
Yeah.
Always. I never pull. Never. I don't think ever. I've ever pulled anything crazy. Ever.
Well, for every single one of those that you see a flash, I mean, this is happening on the episode. It's worth noting that you'll get 20 packs where you won't have got anything decent.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
Well, it's funny, people, I did a pack of anime and people were like, thank you for posting a pack that had nothing in it. I was like, you're welcome.
Yeah. Somebody just posted yesterday about, hey, I saw all these posts of people pulling all these sketches and that after like 6 cards or whatever. So I bought a pack and I didn't get anything. What's wrong? And like, because they didn't post all the other packs, they didn't get nothing.
Yeah, I think it's always a good thing for people to do in the group, and most people are good about it. Some people swear that they just do one pack and they pull the best thing ever, whatever. And even if you do, you know what I mean? Like, please be aware that this is gambling. That, if you're jonesing to buy this stuff, have a reason why before you take the risk or whatever. Because, the pulls are not always, they're not always there, man. They're just not always there. I just do eBay. It's just not worth it to me to like gamble on a pack. I like opening packs. I love opening packs. I love it. But I never pull anything of note.
Well, I'm focusing on getting my cards physically in hand now because, as I've mentioned before, I've got so many cards awaiting e-pack to be shipped that it's just, okay, I'm owning this stuff, but I don't have it. So I can't enjoy it I can't have that tactile enjoyment of it. I can't sort it. I can't put it in the binders. I find it very difficult to keep track of what I have when some of the stuff is here, some of it is on e-pack, some of it's in Norrin's closet, although I don't think you've got anything for me at the moment because your mailbox was having some
mailboxes.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yesterday I was at the baseball card shops. I needed to pick up some supplies because I was out of I put most of my stuff in one touches, and they're so hard to get right now because of COVID last year and the supply chain and everything else. I've had to put them in my recent stuff in top loaders. But the guy in front of me about $500 worth of baseball cards, but they were all low end boxes. They're like $20 a box, 20 this, that, and that. And he's telling the guys, like, these are the ones I do with my kids. It's like we spread them out over the first 6 months or whatever. We know that we're not shooting for any big hits in that, but it's fun just breaking the boxes and opening the packs. So, we'll buy the low end baseball cards, $20 a box, and that just to open them with my young kid, and we have fun doing that. And we're not, we're obviously not expecting to bang anything out of those boxes, but then some of the fun is just opening the packs. I love doing it. I'm still old school. That's why I'm not a huge e-pack fan. I want to see the stuff. I want to see the packs open. I don't want to wait. Now you got to wait 6 months and pay $300 to get the stuff shipped to you. But I'm a very physical, old school, tactile guy. I like breaking boxes. It's just that they cost so much these days. I can't just buy a case of this and a case of that. So I just get my one box. I open it. Usually I'll do a stream and do it, and then let everybody know, hey, if it's not a Doctor Strange, I can trade it out. But I still just love doing the boxes.
I like doing boxes. I do. I really do. I just, I think my wife and I did anime. We did a box of anime. Didn't pull anything of any significance, but did we do a box? What was it? Anime? No. Annual?
Annual.
Yeah.
Annual. Yeah.
Annual. Yeah. Anyway, it was just really fun to crack a box, man, because, it just is same thing. Like, it's just a good time. And that's nice. That's pretty good. That's a great idea, too. I know Jake and his brother David, who are in the group, buy like a couple cases or like a case or a box or two, and then they spread it out months at a time like that as well. Yeah. And then every month they do one box. And I think that's a really smart idea. I love that idea. Yeah.
Nice.
It's great.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Don, I love you. Thank you for joining us.
You're a rock star, brother. Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on. Remind people, we'll put it on the tasting notes, but just remind people again where they can find you on your website and social media.
It's Dr. Strange Archive. That's Dr. Strange Archive. And then if you go to Twitter, Instagram, it's the same name on Twitter and Instagram and that if you just do a search for it. I think Twitter, Instagram. Twitter's kind of weird because the limited character, it's not a good format for a lot of my stuff because you can only post the small amount of characters. So a lot of times I'll link back to my Facebook post or whatever. So my main thing is Facebook, and Dr. Strange Archive's out there on Facebook also.
Good. All right. Well, we'll put notes to all those and go and check out some of the stuff that some of the content that Don's put up. Do you put stuff on YouTube as well, don't you?
Yeah. I'll do different videos and stuff. There's like a Dr. Strange Archive YouTube channel also. Yep.
Great. All right. We'll put all that on because the reason I say that is because I know you've done some really good videos on how you handle your cards and how you store them, which I actually think would be really good for people just to get some inspiration from. Regardless of whether you want to build display cases or, there are levels in between that, and it might be right for someone just to adopt a little bit of that.
And I've done those videos too because those same questions come up all the time. Yeah. Every other week, somebody new gets into the group or whatever, and they ask some of those same questions. So I just some of those I'll do the videos and just throw the link out there. Say, hey, check this video out if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's handy. Mm-hmm. So we'll put that on. Don, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your Sunday with us. And
thanks for having me on.
No, but you're more than welcome. And listen, we talk all the time, so I'm looking forward to maybe having you back on to talk about some of the stuff that you've got over the year. Maybe once Black Diamond has come out, you can give us some thoughts on that. Don, it's time to end the show. You know how we roll when we end the show. You know what to say.
Enjoy collecting, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. Visuals and tasting notes for each episode can be found on our Facebook page. You can subscribe and leave us a voicemail via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, like, and review our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our podcast can be found by Googling at the MCC Pod, which will also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our Facebook community is at MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.